Guys, welcome back to Spank Ranch Garage. Tonight we have a new welder to try out. This was sent to me by BestArc. It's their MIG 145 inverter-based MIG machine. I think the portability of this welder will be nice. I don't know if it'll replace my day-to-day MIG, but we'll see about that. Look at that little guy. Looks like this is not a gas MIG welder. This will be flux core only and potentially only single voltage. This is a generation 7. I know they also offer 8 and 9. Let's see what it comes with. Comes with a ground lead and a stick lead, a couple tips and a roller, carrying strap, and it looks like a roll of flux core. Self-shielded flux core wire, 1mm size. No idea what that means for us US people. Looks probably like 0.35 or so, but it looks like this one is flux core only. This is the Gen 7, though they do offer the Gen 9, which is dual voltage. It's still 145 amp, but it'll also do gas welding as well. So we'll fire this thing up and see how she does. So first thing to notice, the leads are only like 6 feet long. So this thing, it's good that it's portable because you're probably not going to put this on a cart and work with it. Flip the top open. Looks like it's a top feeder here. It's pretty simple to load, kind of just like any other MIG welder. Nothing crazy there. That all works as it should. Adjustable back drag on your spool here so this thing won't bird nest. We'll start with it kind of tight. We'll see if it binds up. Just hold this button down to prime it up, which is kind of nice actually. So we'll feed our wire. Nozzle just pulls off like your typical welder. I don't know if these are standard tips or not. Alright, wire's at the tip. Put your tip back on. Snip your wire. And we should be ready to weld. Let's see how it does. We're set up at 70 amps. And I got a piece of scrap metal here. We're going to try our first arc, see how she does. Not a bad little weld for not really touching the settings. I got some slag on it that needs to clean up, but it does run a smooth arc. We're going to turn this up to 90 amps. See how she likes that. We are at 90 amps, so she zips pretty good. We're getting some cut into this thicker plate here. Let's weld a piece together. Well, it does the job. It's not pretty. It is flux core, but I feel like I was sinking some heat into that. I haven't welded flux in a while, but it's working. Ironically, it's actually pretty windy out here, and flux might actually be the way to go for this project. So we'll give this thing a try. I do wish they sent me the actual gas MIG version, the dual voltage one, but I'll talk to them about that later. For now, we'll build out the rest of this project with this welder as is. It does tack weld really nice and smooth. One thing I notice is when this thing is sitting idling, after you're done welding, the fan turns off, so it is nice and quiet. Whereas my other old school welder, that fan's on all the time. This thing is silent until you start welding, the fan comes up, then it comes back off. Camera shy, always. Alright, so the little welder got this job done. It ain't bad either. I mean, if you watch this channel, you know that I'm not very good at welding, or at least pretty welding. But this little BestArc does do a fine job. Now, It's flux core, so there's a lot of cleanup, a lot of spatter, but you know, for what this is and how cheap it is, you can build and repair real things, and I think we proved that here. It will stick metal together. I just run this for probably 30 to 40 minutes straight, almost continuous welding, fitting out all these joints, the hinges, and no duty cycle issues. Now that was only at 61 amps, but I did feel that this was getting extremely hot, and I think the liner started to melt a little out here somewhere, and it felt like it was snagging on the wire a little. But that was a lot of welding in a short amount of time. If you're just buying this welder for a couple repairs here and there, you need to fix a lawnmower deck or weld your kid's go-kart back together, you can't beat it for the price. Kind of a little ripper. All right, guys, so I did build 85% of this whole rear gate with this little BestArc welder here, and it did good. The only issue we had is that when I got it very hot, the liner started to melt a little bit inside the gun and snag the wire a little bit. Once it cooled, came right back to life. Everything's good there, no issues. Going over a couple of the settings on the welder, it's real easy. You got a button here to select your wire thickness, so 030, 035, 040. Current up and down. You can change your processes here, TIG, MMA, MIG, we'll leave it on MIG. And then up here you can select your 2T, 4T. We won't be using any 4T action. Now you can actually turn the synergic welding off, where you'll get a little more adjustment here, but honestly, leave this thing in full auto mode. It works great. I was really surprised to see that you can just bring the amperage up, the wire speed follows it, it does exactly what it needs to do. So the logic in this machine is actually really good. So I want to weld some more stuff with it. We'll weld some really thin stuff, see how it does. We'll weld some thick stuff, see how it does, and then we'll wrap this up. All right, so I'm going to weld these two bumper brackets together at 100 amps. It's steel, it's about 2/10 of an inch thick, so a little under a quarter. And we're going to weld for about 3 inches continuous and see how it does. Now listen to how this sounds. That's what always impresses me. Running all the way up to 135 amps now. Up. Tripped her. All right, so it was just the breaker that tripped. Looks like this thing will come right back to life and ready to weld at full power again. We'll give it another try. I got my thickest extension cord on here, about 25 feet. And we will pick up where we left off on this weld. Nice and hot. All right, you got 1/4 inch glow in here. Here's a better look in the light at some of these higher metal thickness welds. So it's full penetration on almost 1/4 inch. Hit it from both sides. It lays a nice flat weld. You know, smooth, not the prettiest, but flux core is hard to make pretty. Here it is on some actual 1/4 inch, but way lower amperage. This is one of the first welds I tested it out with. It would hold things together, there's no doubt about that. We're gonna weld some 16 gauge aluminized exhaust tubing. That's what a lot of homeowners, DIYers, are building an exhaust system from. And I've welded this with flux core way back in the day, and it was really nice to have a gas welder for that. But we'll see how this little BestArc handles it. You know, no wire sticking, no BS. Full penetration, it's not dropping the puddle through. Let's run the rest of the weld at 70, see how that does. So here you are, it's welded together, it won't leak. It's not pretty, but I wasn't really trying there to lay a real bead. I was kind of just dragging it to see what the welder does. But yeah, you could weld an exhaust together on your old pickup truck or your tractor or whatever with this, no problem. All right, so what do I think about this little welder? It has its place. If you're into like professional fabrication and stuff, you shouldn't even be watching this video. If you're like a guy that just has to fix stuff sometimes around the house or around the farm, this is not a bad piece of equipment to have, right? I mean, it weighs nothing. Throw it right in the back of your truck, right in the trunk of your car, runs on 120 volts. You don't need anything special to use this. It comes with wire in the box, ready to go. You can pull this out of the box and just start welding. And you can do good work with this if you're good at welding flux core, which I haven't done in many years. But flux core does have its advantages of you're not tanking around a gas bottle. You just drag it out just like this, go weld something. It's not going to be pretty. It's not going to do as well on the thin metal. But with 120 volt input, if you want to hit it both sides, you can weld full penetration on 1/4 inch. So you can make some real substantial repairs with this welder if you had to. Price is right. There will be a link down in the description for this. BestArc did send me this welder for free for me to review it. I think it is useful in that portable, I need a quick weld scenario. In the shop, it's still going to be the Hobart, the TIG welder, the Miller, that kind of stuff. But for the on the road, you know, not doing it for work, doing it because you got to fix something at your house or doing something for pleasure, building a hot rod, building an old truck with your kid, whatever, this is a great welder for it. It's cheap, it just works. It gets the job done. It's my first time using a single knob MIG welder. I burned almost the full 2-pound spool that comes with this without issue. When I'm working with this welder, I keep it up in harm's way intentionally just to test it because, you know, in a fabrication environment, you're shooting sparks, slag, grinding, cutting, whatever, in proximity to the welder. Whether you should be or shouldn't be is one thing, but that's in the reality, that's just what happens. And, you know, I was shooting sparks directly at this thing, and there's nicks on the screen, but, you know, it didn't suck anything in, it didn't short itself out, no issues with that. You know, I wasn't particularly gentle with it as I was using it intentionally, and it took everything I threw at it. I mean, I wasn't out of control with it, but I was trying to be realistic to what you'd see for, you know, a cheap welder and somebody just out there not giving a crap. Now, before you comment like, oh, that ain't a real welder, yada yada, I get it, dude. Like, it has its place, but it's not everybody's place. This review is for somebody that's looking for an absolute bargain welder to go fix a couple things around their house. So for me, this welder is right up there with the Weaver little beer case stick welder. I put this thing through its paces over the last year. I have a video on this, also a very good welder at a very great price. But it's stick only, where this will do both stick and MIG for just a little bit more. They're about the same size, they weigh about the same. Do your research, make your decision. Both of these are just a fine buy. So anyway, thanks BestArc for sending me this, and if you guys have any questions about this, post them down in the comments, and I'll see you next time.